Here today to deliver a message to Elon and Donald.
Donald Trump, the felon with the golden toilet, has absolutely nitrogen monoxide plans to lower costs for struggling American families. Let's be honest, he doesn't know how, and frankly, he doesn't really care. When was the last time the man with the spray tan, complexion, and coiffure actually filled up a gas tank himself? When did he ever worry about a grocery bill like regular folks do? The only bills keeping him up at night are the ones from his criminal defense lawyers. And there are plenty of those. The self-proclaimed stable genius thought he could outtalk a Harvard professor with his usual word salad of half-baked ideas and random capitalization. But Elizabeth Warren wasn't having a NY of it. Armed with nothing but facts and a laser-focused intelligence sharper than Trump's spray tan line, she showed up ready for battle. What started as Trump's routine ego trip quickly descended into a full-on public roast session that left everyone's jaws on the floor. And let's just say someone left with more than just a bruised ego. Want to know what Warren dropped? That left Trump blinking like a malfunctioning Roomba. Buckle up, because this political showdown makes WrestleMania look like afternoon tea with your grandmother's bridge club. You might have heard whispers about Donald Trump and his billionaire buddy, Elon Musk, taking a chainsaw to your social security. Everyone's talking about it, and for good reason. The dynamic duo of doom isn't even trying to hide their plans anymore. Warren exposed it all when she revealed Donald Trump and Elon Musk are saying 78% of the people they want to fire are the folks working in those field offices to help people across this country when they have a problem. This isn't just cutting red tape. This is Donald Trump and Elon Musk working together as co-presidents to keep hardworking Americans from getting the social security benefits they earn and were promised after decades of labor. The two richest guys in the room deciding grandma doesn't need her medication this month. How thoughtful of them. Donald Trump, the man who thinks running a country is like running a casino, just louder and with more golden furniture, finally met his intellectual kryptonite in Elizabeth Warren. Yes, the same Elizabeth Warren who can crunch a Wall Street loophole before breakfast and still have time to wreck a billionaire's afternoon on live television. She's not called a professor for nothing, folks. This woman doesn't just read legislation. She writes it, breathes it, and can recite economic policy while most of us are still trying to figure out our coffee orders. The moment was less of a confrontation and more of a highly educated speed bump, slamming into Trump's runaway train of nonsense. You've seen those videos where someone confidently walks into a glass door? That's basically what happened to Trump's ego when Warren started speaking. The only difference is the glass door didn't have charts, graphs, and decades of research backing it up. So what caused this implosion of Trump Tower logic this time? It all started as it usually does, with Trump opening his mouth, flapping his gums, and throwing around nicknames like a playground bully who just discovered Twitter. But this time, instead of ignoring the toddler tantrum in a red tie, Warren decided to respond. And not with insults, but with brace yourself, actual facts. That's right, she brought research, policy knowledge, and a verbal flamethrower to a tweet fight. Trump brought his usual arsenal of misspelled words and random exclamation points. And it went about as well as bringing a plastic sport to a gunfight. During one particularly savage exchange, Warren calmly dissected Trump's economic fantasy world. Senator, what I'm hearing you say is that no one can hear a rhyme or reason to why the tariffs are off again, on again, off again, on again. But what you're telling us is the fact that hundreds of thousands, even millions of people could lose their jobs, and that prices could go up will not be a factor for you or for Donald Trump for rolling those tariffs back. Imagine Trump walking into a debate armed with a magic Sharpie and a 2013 map of his inauguration crowd, only to realize Warren came with a full dossier, a PowerPoint presentation, and 3 government reports color-coded by stupidity level. It was like watching someone show up to a boxing match wearing floaties, while their opponent calmly dissected them with a legal scalpel. Beautiful, terrifying, delicious. As financial experts have been reporting relentlessly, every economic indicator is flashing red under Trump's chaotic policies. We're teetering on the precipice of sliding into a recession that could ripple worldwide. Yet what's the Treasury Secretary doing? Going on Tucker Carlson to defend Trump's latest bizarre economic theory that probably originated from a fever dream after too many Diet Cokes and hamburgers. But before we get to the main roast, let's rewind the greatest hits collection of this feud. Trump had been lobbing personal digs at Warren for years, recycling the same tired playground slurs because nothing says presidential behavior like rehashing 5-year-old insults, and as usual, he thought it would go unanswered. After all, in Trump world, facts are just what you shout over, and apologies are what other people owe you. Except this time, Warren didn't just answer. She set the entire Trump mythology on fire with the precision of a surgeon and the satisfaction of watching a bully get their comeuppance in a teen movie. Warren's response wasn't loud. It wasn't bombastic. It didn't involve random capital letters or 17 exclamation points per sentence. It was calm. It was deliberate. It was the equivalent of handing Trump a mirror and saying, "Here, look at the mess you've made." She started with the economy, which Trump treats like a monopoly board. He forgot the rules to halfway through the game. Warren peeled apart his so-called accomplishments one by one, exposing how the only thing Trump ever stimulated was the stock price of gold-plated toilet manufacturers. She brought receipts, literal data on job losses, wage stagnation, and the fact that the richest 1% got more hugs from his tax plan than the rest of America combined. It wasn't a clapback. It was a spreadsheet-backed execution. Warren methodically explained the legal situation around Trump's emergency declarations. The authority that Donald Trump is using is a declaration of emergency, but the specific law for that says that Congress can pass a resolution and say no emergency here. And let's face it, realistically, emergency? Really? It was designed for things like we're going to war. And then came the business record. Oh yes, I'm a billionaire, so trust me routine that's worked on his followers for so long. Warren calmly pointed out that Trump's business empire is basically a haunted house of bankruptcies, lawsuits, and unpaid contractors. You could practically hear the ghost of Trump steaks weeping in the background as she listed his failed ventures. Trump Vodka, bankrupt. Trump Airlines, crashed. Trump University, sued into oblivion. Trump Casinos. How does someone even lose money running a casino where the house always wins? Only Trump could achieve such a spectacular failure. She highlighted how the only consistent thing in his business record is how consistently people regret doing business with him. By this point, Trump's face probably looked like someone who just realized he brought a juice box to a wine tasting. But Warren wasn't done. Not even close. She dove into ethics, or in Trump's case, the spectacular lack thereof. She laid out the revolving door of shady associates, legal investigations, and conflicts of interest so numerous they need their own zip code. It wasn't just a confrontation. It was a comprehensive moral audit broadcast in HD. The woman didn't miss a single receipt. She had them all laminated, organized, and ready for display. And Trump, he tried to respond the only way he knows how. Vague statements, deflections, and a social media meltdown that read like a 12-year-old's diary entry after being told they can't have ice cream for dinner. He called her names. He questioned her intelligence. He said things so incoherent that even his spell check gave up and filed for resignation. But none of it landed. Because when you're facing someone who actually does their homework, yelling louder just makes you look like you're losing the argument in surround sound. Warren warned that we're toes right on the edge of a constitutional crisis here. But she didn't stop there, adding, it may be the case that Donald Trump is so full of confidence that he thinks he can wave his wand and whatever he wants to happen will happen. And in many cases, he will be right. For example, the Republicans in the Senate just go ahead and confirm people for jobs that they know they are not qualified for. So, they will kowtow to him. The best part, Warren never once stooped to his level. She didn't throw insults. She didn't rage tweet. She calmly walked through his greatest hits like a museum curator, giving a tour of the world's most embarrassing ego collection. And here on your left, you'll see the failed steak business. Notice the leathery texture, similar to its founder's skin. And over here, we have the bankruptcy filings, arranged chronologically for your viewing pleasure. Trump represents the bluster over substance model of politics, where shouting louder counts more than being right. Warren flipped the script, less yelling, more facts, less paranoia, more policy. It was truth in a pantsuit versus delusion in a red tie. And let's just say one of them left with dignity, and the other left trying to spell indictment without autocorrect. And here's a thought that keeps the political establishment up at night. What if more leaders ditched the cowardly sound bites and brought actual spine to the table? Imagine a Congress where truth doesn't need to scream over conspiracy. Imagine debates where someone doesn't shout fake news every time they're out of ideas or brain cells. This wasn't just a mic drop. It was a rallying cry for competence. Because if Elizabeth Warren proved anything, it's that facts still matter, even if you have to shout them over the world's loudest delusion. That integrity isn't just a campaign buzzword to be discarded after Election Day. That intelligence isn't something to hide or dumb down to seem relatable. When Trump was first announcing his tariff plans, he brazenly declared there would be no exceptions. When pressed about how businesses and consumers would suffer, his response was essentially to bad. That's the Trump doctrine in a nutshell. Make a mess, refuse to clean it up, then blame someone else for the stain on the carpet. Warren, meanwhile, has been fighting predatory financial practices since before most people even knew what a subprime mortgage was. She's been warning about economic inequality, while Trump was still firing people on reality TV for entertainment. She created the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, while Trump was slapping his name on buildings he didn't actually build. She pointed out how Trump brags about building things, but left behind a trail of unfinished walls, half-empty buildings, and financial carnage that would make Enron blush. But perhaps the most brutal blow came when she laid out how Trump's policies weren't just dumb, they were actively dangerous, stripping healthcare like it's a game show prize, gutting environmental protection so fast even the EPA started blinking in Morse code, cozying up to dictators like he's auditioning for a Bond villain reboot. Warren didn't just confront Trump, she exposed the blueprint of chaos masquerading as governance. And the reaction, oh, it was absolutely priceless. Fox News tried their best to spin it as Elizabeth Warren gets unhinged, which in reality was code for she used words we didn't understand and were terrified. Trump's surrogates tried to change the subject, faster than a toddler who's been caught with chocolate. On their face, J.D. Vance popped up like a malfunctioning AI, mumbling about the deep state while slowly backing away into irrelevance. Warren hammered home the point about the dangers of unchecked power. The real point is, and the United States Supreme Court has said this, if Donald Trump and his henchmen can do this to one citizen from Maryland, they can do it to anyone. Meanwhile, social media exploded. Memes poured in like confetti at a humiliation parade. One showed Warren holding Trump's policies like expired milk with the caption, "Smells like failure." Another depicted Trump in a debate with a goldfish. Spoiler alert, the goldfish won by a landslide. And of course, the trending hashtag Warren Rex Trump became a digital monument to intellectual curb stomping. But let's pause and reflect for a moment on what we just witnessed. This wasn't just a political spat. This was a collision of two ideologies, one based on evidence, education, and empathy, and the other based on ego, fantasy, and branding. Warren didn't just challenge Trump. She dismantled the whole Trump persona like an IKEA cabinet missing half the screws. The confrontation proves something vital that many have forgotten. In this era of hot takes and shouting matches, Trump may have mastered the art of distraction, but he's completely defenseless when someone refuses to play the clown game. Warren didn't dance around the nonsense. She walked through it like a math teacher grading a kindergartner's essay on international trade. Even when Trump tried to pivot, talking about jobs he supposedly created, trade deals he allegedly dominated, or global respect he thinks he commands, Warren met each lie with facts so cold they required gloves to handle. She broke down how manufacturing didn't boom under his watch, how the tariffs backfired harder than a clown cannon, and how America's global reputation now ranks somewhere between lukewarm soda and Internet Explorer. Warren was unrelenting in her warning about the stakes, and that means nobody's safe. You speak out, you do something Donald Trump doesn't like, you do something one of Donald Trump's henchmen doesn't like, boom, and you are disappeared. That is truly what dictatorship is, and Trump, oh, he pivoted all right into full-blown meltdown mode. Back came the all-caps social media posts full of random quotes, misspelled words, and bizarre phrases that sounded like a Mad Lib written by a guy who just discovered caffeine, and conspiracy theories in the same afternoon. At one point, he tried to call her out on integrity, which is like a raccoon lecturing on hygiene. The absurdity meter broke and had to be replaced mid-rant. Warren, ever the calm storm, didn't even acknowledge the noise. Instead, she released a short follow-up, another calm, policy-driven statement that essentially said, "I don't have time to argue with someone who thinks the truth is optional." And just like that, she sealed the roast with a bow of dignity. What makes this even sweeter? The long arc of their conflict. Warren has been the target of Trump's nonsense for years. He's mocked her heritage, her appearance, her intelligence, because that's what insecure men do when faced with a woman who won't back down. And every time, she's answered with quiet resolve until now. This time, she brought the hammer, and it landed directly on the ego. People started calling it a masterclass in handling bullies. Some said it felt like watching a courtroom drama, where the defense accidentally confessed to every charge while trying to look innocent. Others compared it to a lion swatting a yapping chihuahua who didn't realize it was out of its weight class. Even Trump's own allies reportedly urged him to let it go, because continuing the feud was like shadow boxing with a laser pointer, exhausting, pointless, and making him look increasingly unhinged. Warren didn't let up on the economic impact of Trump's chaotic policies. We're hearing from businesses, small businesses, big businesses. We're hearing from families already. Businesses are starting to raise prices in anticipation of how to weather this storm, which means costs are going up for families. Small businesses are worried that they're just going to get capsized in this kind of turmoil, and that's the problem that Donald Trump is creating. But Trump, being Trump, couldn't resist making things worse for himself. He doubled down. He held a rally where he tried to revive his old jabs. only to get distracted halfway through and start ranting about water pressure in showers and toilets. Because nothing says I'm a serious political figure like a 15-minute digression about flushing. Then he complained about how unfair the media was for replaying Warren's speech, as if logic itself were now part of the liberal conspiracy. By this point, even his staff looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. One A was reportedly seen Googling how to fake your own death and flee to Canada. Another quietly whispered, "Remember when we thought this was going to be fun?" A third was observed updating their LinkedIn profile during Trump's speech, with the job description simply reading help. Meanwhile, Warren went back to work. No media tour, no gloating, just policy meetings, economic proposals, and doing her actual job. Which, of course, made Trump look even worse because nothing makes a clown seem more ridiculous than being ignored by the grown-up in the room. So where does this leave us? With a moment of clarity in a political landscape usually fogged by hot air and empty rhetoric. 4 years, Trump has survived by shouting over anyone who dares to challenge him. But Elizabeth Warren didn't try to outshout him, she outhought him. She exposed the illusion that behind the gold-plated bravado and red hat rage is a man who crumbles under scrutiny. And that's what made it so satisfying. Not the volume, not the spectacle, but the precision. Like watching someone solve a Rubik's Cube while their opponent struggles to chew gum and walk straight during a Senate session. Warren made her position crystal clear. I rise today in support of Senator Kaine and Senator Heinrich's resolution to terminate Donald Trump's executive order declaring a national energy emergency. I just want to start by being clear about what's going on here. Donald Trump promised to gut our environmental laws. If big oil CEOs gave him $1 billion for his campaign, he was quite open. In the end, it wasn't just about Warren confronting Trump, it was about reality confronting fantasy, truth confronting delusion, competence confronting chaos, and the best part, Trump knows it. You could see it in his eyes. The dawning realization that his old tricks don't work on people who actually read the Constitution, instead of using it as a coaster. Will this be the last time Warren drops the intellectual guillotine on Trump? Probably not, but it will be remembered as the day someone finally called the Emperor's tailor and said, "Yeah, he's not wearing anything." And also, his spray tan is streaking, and somewhere, buried under layers of ego and hair product, Trump is still trying to figure out what hit him. If you laughed, cringed, or spit out your drink during this saga, you're not alone. The entire internet did too. And remember, in a world of fake news and loudmouth billionaires, sometimes the most powerful mic drop is simply facts. And here's where it all clicks, like Trump trying to locate the Constitution in a Big Mac wrapper. This wasn't just Warren dunking on a former president like it was recess, and she had the basketball court to herself. This was a full-circle moment in her long crusade against corruption, fraud, and the financial snake oil salesmen who usually hide behind $5,000 suits and NDA letters. And who better embodies That's Leah's in human form than Donald I've filed for bankruptcy more times than I single quotes v red a book. Trump, the man who's had more failed businesses than most people have had hot dinners, telling us he knows how to run an economy. Please. The only thing Trump knows how to run is his mouth. And occasionally, away from his legal problems, Warren pulled no punches when discussing Trump's economic policies. Donald Trump's red light. Green light tariffs mean higher prices and economic pain for American families. And now it looks like Trump and his buddies could actually be profiting personally off that pain. See, Warren didn't just come out swinging because it's fun to obliterate fragile egos on live TV. Though, let's be honest, it is deeply satisfying to watch, like popping bubble wrap or watching a sandcastle get washed away by a wave. She did it because this moment crystallized everything she's been fighting against since the day she walked into the Senate with a stack of receipts and zero patience for billionaire tantrums.